Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
It's time for the Sports Blitz, the only live-streamed local sports show in Arkansas with all the latest on the sports stories that matter to you.
On a busy Sports Blitz today, we'll tell you why Les Miles is not going to be the next head football coach at Arkansas. We'll look through the coaching rumors, we'll sift through it for you, and together we'll decide who we think is going to be the best candidate for the Arkansas coaching job. We've also got local sports and much more.
Live from the River Valley Leaders Studio, here are your hosts, Mark Freeman and Weldon Braxton.
What a show. What a show. What a show. We've got a show for you today. Thank you for joining us on the Sports Blitz. Lots of new developments, Weldon, going on in the coaching search. Lots of new developments here on the Sports Blitz today as we have become mobile. We've become able to take phone calls today, and we love to hear from you today with what you've got going on, what you have on your mind, your sports brain. So you can call us at 968-NEWS. That's 968-6937. And you can let us know. Is that right? 6397. I'm sorry, 6397. It's easier if you've got the little phone with the letters by it and you can see it. Just dial 968-NEWS. But you could get a hold of us today and let us know what's going on and what you think about the sports topics that we'll discuss today. The biggest topic, of course, is the Arkansas coaching search and the rumor last night that made its way all the way to ESPN that Arkansas was going to hire Les Miles for 5 years. Well, they'd made an offer. 5 years, what was it, $27 million?
Yeah, 27.5. I think it was ridiculous.
Wow. I find it very hard to believe that Arkansas would make that offer. I found it even harder to believe that ESPN and CBS and some of these people would run with that.
Mark, this story, it broke, and I use the term broke loosely. It came out yesterday evening around, 5:30, 6 o'clock, somewhere like that. And the idea or the tendency from my part would be to just put it over in the pile with other rumors. You know, the Gruden rumors, the Pete Carroll rumors, although I'm not putting Les Miles in the category with those coaches. It was just one of those things that you threw it off to the side, ha, Les Miles. And then as things went on throughout the evening, it got a little more serious. And I'm sitting here thinking, wait a minute now, what's going on? All of a sudden, credible sources, as you mentioned, CBS, ESPN, they get a hold of it. Now they're showing highlights of Les Miles, that offer across the board. And it's starting to look real now. But, Mark, I just think there's something, as old people say, something rotten in the cotton about this, and we're going to dig into it.
We are going to dig into it. We're going to have Drew Brent on at 11:15. He just sent me a message, said he's been working the phones all morning trying to find something out for us. He said this should be good, so we look forward to that coming here in just a little bit. You know, it's funny. All the Arkansas fans are saying, we don't want Les Miles. All the LSU fans are saying, you can have Les Miles. Go ahead and take him. And then we've got people in the national media and even in the regional media who are they're coming up with nice Photoshop pictures of Les Miles with the Arkansas shirt and the hog hat on, and this thing's taking on a life of its own. We've got our opinion on what we think is going on, why we think this is happening, and what exactly is going on behind the scenes. We think that it's, I hate to use this phrase because I hear it all the time and it just makes me laugh, a smokescreen. I believe that if there's ever been a smokescreen, saying that you're Arkansas going to go after Les Miles is a smokescreen. It's one of two things. It's either that or it's Les Miles using Arkansas for a raise, kind of like Houston Nutt did Nebraska and LSU back in the day. And coaches do it all the time. They flirt with a job and say, I don't really know. Les Miles hasn't had a raise at LSU since 2008. They've been in the national championship game last year, and you would have thought that it would got him a bump in pay, but it didn't.
Yeah, then they saw how he coached in that title. That made them change their mind. The thing with this, Mark, is I know Les Miles is sort of the flavor of the day in the state. His name is sort of what captivates everything. You use the word smokescreen. I mean, could this be what Jeff Long really wants? Everybody up in arms about oh, is it going to be Les Miles? I don't want Les Miles here, blah, blah, blah. Where are we in the process? I really think that's a question that needs to be addressed. Does Jeff Long have a short list of candidates narrowed down? Has he offered the job to people and been turned down? Where is he? We know about the reports that he met with the Razorback Foundation. What was that for? That doesn't mean anything is imminent. It just means that they met, probably talking about how much they're willing to pay and other structural things. So we just don't know. But Mark, we discussed this before. If this is a smokescreen or a sham for something greater, if you're Jeff Long, you got to deliver at this point.
Exactly.
Now, I mean, I like a guy like a James Franklin or some of these other up-and-coming coaches, Steve Sarkisian. I like them as coaching talents, but you can't have a Les Miles smokescreen and then produce James Franklin or Steve Sarkisian. From a PR standpoint, that's dumb. I mean, you throw out somebody that's a lesser name, and then you come home with a bigger name and surprise the fan base. You don't throw out a name like Les Miles, who, while he's not a great coach, he's a big name, a polarizing figure. John Gruden, a polarizing figure. You don't throw those names out there and then not bring home a big fish. So I think really all eyes are on Jeff Long as far as what caliber of coach he brings in.
Jeff Long has done a great job in a lot of different areas, and if he's able to bring in a big coach because of what we're going to term now a smokescreen, if that's what this is, he's a genius. And that's what I've written down a couple things here, and we'll get into this. We'll delve more deeply into this here in just a little bit. This question, what can this mean? What's going on right now? What can this mean? And it can mean a couple of different things. A smokescreen, it can mean a failure that Jeff Long has just shot all his bullets. He's gone after such and such and such all the way down the list, and he's come up desperate saying, I have to come up with a big name. Ooh. I have to make an offer to somebody that's just crazy and out there, and I have to go get somebody because everybody else has said no. It could also mean that he's trying to do the right thing, and I watched the show called The Newsroom, and one of the producers on the show, she said, please help me to know I'm not doing a big thing badly. And I think that's what this could be. This could be just a huge PR nightmare for the Razorbacks and for Jeff Long altogether when he's at an all-time high right now with his integrity that he, right. Let Bobby Petrino go. This is not the way the University of Arkansas is going to be run. This is not the way we expect our coaches to act. If he does fail, I mean, and we're talking about, going after coaches and being shot down and ending up with a Jim Grobe type guy, which, no offense to the guy, but he's not the guy that Arkansas fans are after right now. This could end up being a PR nightmare. And then the other thing this could be pure genius from Jeff Long's standpoint, because what he could be doing right now behind the scenes, we have no idea what he's doing. And if he comes out, like you said, with the Bobby Petrino type hire that just came out of left field, nobody knows where in the world it came from, and he's a great coach and a guy who's going to put Arkansas back on the map immediately, he could look like a genius.
And that's really the next question or the next point. Who's out there? Let's just walk down this road and assume that the whole Les Miles issue is just a sham and the eyes and the target is really on somebody else. We've already acknowledged that if that's the case, it has to be a huge name. And so then it gets you to thinking, what big name coach could and would come to Arkansas? I think you can rule out Nick Saban, Chip Kelly. There's some obvious names in that top 10 list that you can rule out automatically. Urban Meyer as well. And then you start looking, a guy like Bob Stoops gets paid enough already, even though there's been questions about his heart and desire in Oklahoma. Does he want a new challenge? I don't think that happens. But again, Mark, if this is the road we're going down, the question is, who's out there and who's available that could live up to such a sham that we have here with Les Miles?
This is fun. I'm not gonna lie. The other conversations that we've had over the past couple weeks have not been so fun. When we're talking about how John Gruden is not going to be the next coach, I don't care what your grandma's source says. I don't care what your friend in Fayetteville who said they saw him up at the restaurant. I don't care. None of that stuff is true. We are not stupid. And, it's making, honestly, following Twitter last night and some of the regional guys and national guys that I follow, it's making Arkansas look sort of like a joke.
Oh,
because, Clay Travis said it last night. I unfollowed him on Twitter because he just wouldn't stop.
Really?
He kept saying that Arkansas is the most delusional fan base in the country, and I think he might be right. But it still just kind of irked me.
Yeah.
And so I was like, unfollow. But he has a point. We have a very delusional fan base that thinks, oh, well, Bear Bryant's going to be the defensive coordinator. You know, it's
I mean, you've even had credible sources like Chris Mortensen. And, when it comes to reporting and being factually accurate, it's hard to find anyone better than Chris Mortensen. And he's basically come out on statewide media outlets and said it's not happening with John Gruden, yet he still gets asked about it. Chris Mortensen went as far as to say that, hey, my NFL buddies, GMs, and other reporters are asking me, what's going on with your people down in Arkansas? Have they lost it down there? I mean, so it is kind of an issue. And I understand the passion with the Arkansas fan base, and certainly I think that is an asset when you talk about donations and support that would attract a head coach. But let's pull back on the reins a little bit,
Well, I don't think a lot of people are capable. I'm not trying to be rude, but a lot of these people just they get so out there in thinking about, this guy's going to be the great coach for Arkansas, that they don't understand this isn't Alabama. This isn't Texas, Florida. There are disadvantages to coming to Fayetteville, Arkansas. And I love Fayetteville. I love Arkansas.
Right.
But you're not going to get John Gruden to leave Monday Night Football to come to coach Arkansas. I mean, I'm sorry. It's not going to happen. You're not going to get certain guys Nick Saban is not leaving Alabama to come to Arkansas. And I don't think anybody even said that one, because even that's more crazy to some people than John Gruden leaving Monday Night Football, making $5-point-something million to come coach Arkansas. So we'll get into the coaching rumors here in just a little bit, as if we already haven't. We'll delve a lot deeper into it, but let's look at local sports. Thank you to the Rack Furniture Warehouse, our local sports sponsor, for making this possible. Weldon, the Russellville Cyclones, 1-1 before last night's win. Now they're 2-1. They went to Republic, Missouri, and got a win last night. I have not gotten any details about that win, so if you have some and you want to let us know, Mark at rivervalleyleader.com is the email address. Facebook.com/sportsblitz is our Facebook page. Let us know how the Cyclones did. We know they won. I do have a Facebook source who told me that they did win. I don't know if that's a tournament or if that was just a one-game thing. I'd hate to drive back and forth to Republic, Missouri for some tournament play.
Yeah, but it was a tournament last year. I want to say they won. I know they played well last year up in Republic, Missouri.
I think they did win it.
Yeah, I think they did. So I believe that's a tournament.
Okay. Well, they won in Missouri yesterday. They lost to Springdale last week, and then their first game 2 weeks ago, they won 62-50 over Hot Springs. So they're 2-1. Got all the football guys in, got a chance to get them acclimated to the system. Coach Mann's ready to roll again on the 7A, 6A Central. Look forward to seeing the Cyclones play this year. The Pottsville Apaches now 5-0 as they won over Bauxite last week. 21 points from Michael Perry and 10 from Travis Cole. They also won again last night the night before last against Guy Perkins on Monday night. A big 40-plus point win, I believe, was the final score. I'll have to look it up. We have a story on rivervalleyleader.com about it. But Travis Cole had 23 points. He's a three-point bomber. He's my kind of player. He'll just stand out there and just light you up.
And does he play defense?
He can do those things.
So he's not like you.
He's not like me at all. He's a good teammate. He's had 23, and the Apaches moved to 5-0. Looking forward to watching him play. They're in the St. Joseph tournament at Conway right now. And speaking of tournament play, the Clarksville Panthers 1-2 after a tough go of it there at the Rumble on the Ridge, one of the biggest tournaments in the region this weekend. Show them what they've won. A chance to go play in the Hurricane Classic this weekend in Jonesboro. The Panthers always do this. They always have a tough early season schedule. And last year, after Christmas, they didn't lose one game. So it was, get all the lumps put on your head before Christmas, and show you what you need to work on, what you need to fix, and get better at. Come back after Christmas and play well. This year, Clarksville's competing in those games. Last year, they were getting just murdered in those early season games. They're competing early on. Now they get to go to the Hurricane Classic, another one of the best tournaments in the state, and they're going to get to compete against the best.
I don't want to beat the same drum I beat on Monday, but when you look at Clarksville and the schedule that they play, there is no harm in playing in these competitive events. There's no harm in playing Jonesboro, Fayetteville, Little Rock Hall, all these other big schools. It's not the BCS where you get graded on if you lose or not. It's all about preparing you for conference play, and that's all Clarksville's doing. But, Mark, we're so proud of our high school football teams over the past few weeks. Got championship action. Good game between Camden, Fairview, and Batesville. And 6A, of course, if you're a Russellville fan, you saw what Green Greenwood did. You saw how impressive they were. They're going to take on Pine Bluff. Many people believe Pine Bluff is the only team that can knock off Greenwood, even though Greenwood struggled a little bit against El Dorado. And then, of course, in 7A, Bentonville against Fayetteville, Razorback commit Austin Allen, and a few of those other guys up there. So, football in the River Valley didn't end the way we hoped it would, but you got some good championship games this weekend. So if you're a high school football fan, go to Little Rock, check it out.
The Dardanelle Sand Lizards, I think that this is their most recent score, 54-24 over Paris. Paris has got their top 7 players in football right now.
I hope so.
And they only had 5 players against Dardanelle. And that's what we talked about the other day, the way Russell Sturdivant's going to run his guys and just play physical. That's just a terrible style for Paris to have to run into. But congratulations to the Sand Lizards with a 54-24 early season win. They're going to be scrappy. Whether they can compete with Pottsville and Maumelle and some of those teams in conference remains to be seen, but they will be scrappy and they will be in every game this season. Look forward to watching the Sand Lizards, even the Dover Pirates play. They're struggling at the high school level. They know that they've got help on the way because their junior high group is really good, but we'll look forward to seeing how those guys develop throughout the years. One more bit of information in local sports before we go to break. Arkansas Tech also looking for a head football coach. Coach Steve Mullins has stepped down. He's going to remain as athletic director, but you had some news about what they were – I don't know if I'm burning your source here.
No, you're good.
But they looking at a guy for a head coaching position at Arkansas Tech football.
Yeah, my sources, that's the first word you need to hang on to. My sources, no, but I have talked to people who are around the Arkansas Tech program in it in different capacities. They are looking at a coach from a school in Texas, a Division II school down there in Texas. They've had some success, so we'll see how this search goes. It's a coaching search, so there's rumors everywhere. I've heard Coach Holt was a candidate. I've heard everybody was a candidate.
Oh, really?
Arkansas. Not for real, just people throwing stuff on the wall, like you like to say, and hope it sticks.
Just hope something doesn't run off the wall.
Yeah,
huh?
We'll see what Tech does. Les Miles may be in play. So
That's very interesting.
It is.
That is very interesting. Well, we've got a Honda of Russellville poll question for you. We want you to get in and let us know what you think. We've got a couple answers that we'll read you here in just a moment. But the Honda of Russellville poll question, although we don't believe, and we've already debunked the rumor about Les Miles to Arkansas, although we do not believe Arkansas will hire Les Miles, would you rather have Miles or a lesser accomplished coach like James Franklin or Steve Sarkisian, somebody that Arkansas is rumored to be going after? We'll let you know what your responses are. Give us your Facebook.com/SportsBlitz answer. Go check it out. We'll have Drew Brent on here in just a moment to talk about the coaching search. It's going to get wild in here.
Hello, River Valley. This is Doug Duval with Arkansas's first Rack Furniture Warehouse, where we have the largest selection of recliners and mattresses in the state of Arkansas. Come visit us at 2609 East Parkway, the Rack Furniture Warehouse.
Set your sights on savings right now at Honda of Russellville. We're offering our best deals of the year on remaining 2012 Honda ATVs, plus special introductory offers on select new 2013 Honda ATVs. All with zero down and easy monthly payments with approved credit. Be sure to check out the all-new Honda Foreman 4x4, now stronger, smarter, and harder working. How about a side-by-side? Well, Honda's got you covered with the Big Red. Honda's Big Red offers a proven Honda engine, automotive-style Honda automatic transmission with no belts to slip or break. Come in for a test ride today at Arkansas's legendary Honda dealer, Honda of Russellville.
Hello, River Valley. This is Doug Duval again at Arkansas's first Rack Furniture Warehouse, where Leon and I are back in business. We have gallery selection at quality warehouse prices here at the Rack Furniture Warehouse, 2609 East Parkway, Russellville.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Sports Scene of Arkansas offers a wide variety of sporting goods and apparel to meet any athlete's needs. Coaches love the top-of-the-line equipment that gives their players an edge, and parents and fans can't get enough of the high-quality screen printing that allows them to sport their favorite team's logo on jerseys, bags, and hats. Your one-stop shop for embroidery, banners, and much, much more. Visit your local team sports specialists. Sports Scene at 316 West Main in Russellville.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
Live from the River Valley Leader Studio, here are your hosts, Mark Freeman and Weldon Braxton.
Welcome back to the Sports Blitz. Mark Freeman, Weldon Braxton in the RiverValleyLeader.com studios. Got plenty of stuff going on today. We want you to let us know what is on your mind. Go to Facebook.com/SportsBlitz or Facebook.com/RVL News to let us know what you think about the Arkansas coaching search. We've got a Honda of Russellville poll question for you today. It involves the coaching search, obviously, and it says, although we do not believe that Arkansas will hire Les Miles, would you rather have him or a lesser accomplished coach like James Franklin or Steve Sarkisian? Today we've got a interesting phone call. Lordy, we good? I can hear an echo. All right. Hey, Drew, are you there?
What's up, guys?
What's going on, Drew?
Sorry, I didn't get to introduce you because a little bit of an echo there. I think we're good to go now. We've got some coaching rumors and stuff going on, and Drew has been feverishly working the phones. This is Drew Brent, just an Arkansas legend in the media. What's going on, Drew, and what have you found out today?
Well, first off, I would like to know at what point I ever became a legend. I think you have to do something first. So it's, you know what? Working the phone calls today, and dude, I have found out that everyone in the country knows exactly nothing.
Yeah.
As when it comes to this coaching search, who would have thought Monday when you ended the Sports Blitz that the hottest name in the Arkansas coaching search by Wednesday was going to be Les Miles? Which, by the way, my opinion on that is that that's a total crock/smoke screen, but we can get into that a little bit later. But man, this whole thing is a complete and total debacle. I think that's the best word for it, man.
So you've obviously talked to some people who are familiar with the coaching search. What do you think? And we've had our opinion on this, and we'll get into it here in just a minute. What do you think Jeff Long is thinking here? Do you think this is, like you mentioned, a smokescreen? Do you think that there's a guy that he's going after right now? What do you think is going through Jeff Long's mind at this point?
I think this is a classic example of a power play. And what I mean by that is that more than likely, all right, see, the interesting tidbit about all of this is that Les Miles and Gary Patterson have the same agent. And probably my best guess, and this is just from what I've talked to, from what I've heard, people that I've talked to have said, okay, there were conversations with Gary Patterson. He wasn't necessarily interested in the Arkansas job. So likely what happens is now his agent says, well, what would you give for Les Miles? In Jeff Long's mind, at least this is what I see the university doing. It's saying, okay, we're going to open up the pocketbooks and we're just going to see what happens with Les Miles. If he says no, then you haven't lost anything. And a lot of people say that there's going to be egg on Jeff Long's face. I don't see it that way, because now every coach in the country sees the University of Arkansas just broke open the pocketbook, $5.5 million a year. A year, guys. All right. You now have proven that you're ready to step your game up. You have now proven that you've got the donors to back the funding. You now have proven that you're ready to get on that same level as Alabama, LSU, and arguably Texas A&M. I think that this is nothing but positive for the University of Arkansas, and I think that's what this is a power play. What do you have to lose? You either get Les Miles, you hurt LSU in the process, or you don't get Les Miles, but you say to every other candidate out there, we're willing to break the bank. Let's do this. Let's compete.
Well, Drew, I think some people may question, are you really hurting LSU
And,
when you lose
are you
Les
smart
Miles?
to go pay Les Miles more than Nick Saban? To me, that makes no sense.
Well, here's the thing about that, Weldon, and I'll say this. I have questioned Les Miles a long time, his clock management skills. I mean, he could very well be the luckiest coach on the planet, but you can't argue with success. I mean, you really can't. National championship to his game, to his name, a top 20 recruiting class every year. They're consistently in the hunt and the top 5. They're always in the national championship conversation. Is that more about the program than it is about the coach? Absolutely. I mean, when you look at his record at Oklahoma State, he was mediocre at best, 8-4, 7-5. But I feel like you can't argue with the numbers. I mean, are you hurting LSU? A little bit. I mean, you've got an established program there. Me personally, I don't want to see Les Miles. I think that Arkansas. I mean, and I don't want to say it quite this way, but I think they can do better. I don't think Les Miles is going to look good in red. But that's just my whole opinion. It's not a good fit. It's not a good fit for this culture, for this university. I think it's more of a power play. I really do. I do think it shows Alabama, A&M, LSU, Florida, the rest of the SEC. Arkansas is not kidding around. They're ready to make a big hire.
Drew, where do you think Jeff Long is in the whole coaching search process? Has he made any offers and been turned down? Do you think he's still deciding who to offer, or do you think he's got his guy in place and just dotting the I's and crossing the T's?
It's really hard to tell because Jeff Long keeps things so close to himself. I mean, if you're trying to get information out of this, I mean, Mark can tell you that it is nearly an act of Congress to get credentials to go to the University of Arkansas games, much less get information about the coaching search. I'll say this: I honestly, and I thought this from the beginning, I thought Gary Patterson was the guy. I thought he and Jeff Long had some decent connections, and they were wanting to go a different direction. Defense has been a problem with the football team for the last couple of years. Gary Patterson has had a defensive pedigree. I think if he's not on his first choice, he's probably second or third, but I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. I think Jeff Long has had the luxury that a lot of athletic directors don't, in that he had an entire year to be talking these things over. He's trying to do this the right way. I think that he had a list of 3 guys that he would have been completely happy with, and I don't think he's straight from that yet.
I'm not Jeff Long. I'm not near the businessman. I don't claim to have the acumen that he has, but I can tell you that from April to now, I would have come up with a list of names. I would have gone through I would have vetted them out as well as I could, and I would have placed them in order and said, all right, think about how much I'll think about how much money we can get, how much money we have available to us to hire a coach. I'll think about how much I want to spend, the value of whatever coach we'll get, how much it'll bring back, the return. I would have that list ranked out, and then I would go from the top to the bottom just like anybody else would logically, and try to get those coaches in that order. I don't know who is at number 1 on his list, but I know Chris Peterson was number 1 on my list because I knew we weren't getting Nick Saban. I knew John Gruden. Please. So I had Chris Peterson number 1, Gary Patterson number 2, and then on down from there. I think that all these rumors that have come out, the last hot one before Les Miles was Chris Peterson. So, to me, this looks like a classic smokescreen, which I don't see. I don't see smokescreens very often. And maybe Jim Grove was a smokescreen for Bobby Petrino back in 2007, whenever it was. Maybe that's what was going on in the first place. And this is just the second evolution of that. And maybe Jeff Long was going after Chris Peterson all along, and he had to throw Les Miles out there. To me, Drew, it looks like Les Miles was just using Arkansas for a raise.
Well, I mean, and that's very possible, too. Listen, you very, very rarely, unless your name is Houston Dale, do you go from one division school to the other. I mean, and that's kind of almost an unwritten rule among SEC teams. You really just don't do that. Ole Miss caught a lot of flack when they hired Houston Nutt. Not from the only people who were happy in the SEC that Houston Nutt was hired by Ole Miss was Arkansas. I mean, it's just not something that you do very often. I do think it's a smokescreen. I think you're absolutely right about that. I will say that I think the Jim Grove smokescreen in 2007 was probably not a smokescreen. Bobby Petrino fell in Jeff Long's lap. So that was, in my opinion. So I don't know that you can count that as a smokescreen, But you made a point a while ago, Mark, about having your list since April. You kind of have to tweak that list as the year goes on because you remember Tommy Tuberville would have been a top 5 guy even as early as a month ago, and then he slapped a guy.
Very good point.
So that list is going to get tweaked. Even you and I talked about this in early April. Skip Holtz was a guy that people thought could have been a good fit at the University of Arkansas, and look where that program went. So, I don't necessarily think that you could have a top 3 established in April, and then you kind of have to see how the season goes. Boise State's buyout for Chris Peterson is relatively high as well. We have to remember that the financial side of this is going to be a little bit more than maybe a little bit more than Arkansas wants to pay. I don't think James Franklin is completely out of the equation yet, and I think a wild card name that you might hear, and this is not a name that I want to hear, but a wild card name you might hear, even as far as smoke screens go, may be Gus Malzahn in the next couple of weeks. His name is being talked about for the Auburn job. It could happen.
And that's a point that I wanted to get to. Well, was it your topic about that, or was it about something else?
Go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say is there are a lot of different jobs that are open now. You've got Auburn, you've got Tennessee, you've got NC State and Cal. This coaching carousel is going to get crazy. And if I'm Jeff Long, he issued a 10 to 14 day window. I heard some media guys yesterday saying, you don't give yourself a 10 to 14 day window and then go do it inside. You want to get it before that 10 to 14 day window. So I feel like Jeff Long in the next week is going to have this answered. But how important, Drew, do you think it is for Jeff Long to be on top of this quickly because of where Arkansas stacks up in a lot of people's minds as far as how attractive the job is?
Oh, it's imperative. I think what he did with LSU makes the job a little bit more attractive because of the financial side of it. But you got to get recruiting. You look at this year as a whole. If you didn't think that the SEC West could get any tougher, then Texas A&M came in and broke that wide open. Mississippi State's going to contend. Ole Miss is going to contend. Auburn looking for a new head coach that could very well be Bobby Petrino. Arkansas's got to get on this very, very quickly. So, yeah, I think that Jeff Long, for him to tell the team that there's a 10 to 14-day window tells me that he's either got somebody ready to rock and roll after their last season game, after a championship game, or he's just about ready to sign on the dotted line. But they've got to get this thing rolling. Recruiting is right around the corner. You've got to get on the road. You've got to get your staff in place. Let's not forget, there is so much more to hiring a head coach than just getting the head coach and getting him in place. You've got to get the staff hired. You've got to get your team back to where it needs to be. Inevitably, there's going to be transfers, so you're going to have to fill holes on your team. It is of the utmost importance that Jeff Long gets on this, and really also just because you don't want to have egg on your face as the University of Arkansas. As we talked about, there's been a lot of time here. There's been a lot of time for them to have discussed this. There's been a lot of time for them to have offered. So I think that if you want to save face for the university, if you want to get a good coach, and you want to start building toward that new era, it's got to happen in the next 10 days.
And Weldon, as we talk about this, breaking news coming across Twitter right now, Barrett Sally retweeted somebody from Warblogle. I guess that's an Auburn blog. It said this morning a plane flew from Montgomery to Jonesboro, Arkansas, to Fort Worth, Texas. So, Auburn's looking at Bobby Petrino. Now they're looking at Gus Malzahn. And what else is in Fort Worth, Texas? Gary Patterson.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I wanted to ask you, Drew, was the Kentucky job was filled by Mark Stoops yesterday. You don't expect the Kentucky coaching search and the Arkansas coaching search to cross paths. But the Auburn search and the Tennessee search definitely could have some similar names as to the Arkansas job. So how do you think those other openings will affect what we do here?
Well, you kind of have to measure up how the schools measure up to each other. I think if you'd asked me last week what was the most attractive opening in the SEC, knowing that Gene Chizik would have been fired, I would have told you Auburn. I think Auburn, 2 years off of a national championship, they've got good facilities, they've got good money, but then all of a sudden this week NCAA sanctions could be coming down. That's going to take the attractiveness off that job a little bit. You look at Tennessee. Tennessee has one of the highest recruiting budgets, not just in the SEC, but the entire country. news comes out this week that the university is having to give the athletic department $3 million because the athletic department fund has almost been depleted. So when you look at those things, I think Arkansas is a far more attractive job, because when it comes to the talent that you have on campus right now, when it comes to the facilities expansion, when it comes to financial packaging, I mean, I don't look at this from Razorback-colored glasses. I don't want you to get me wrong here, but when you look at it from an objective point of view, I think, yes, you're going to have some crossover there. I think you are going to have some guys that are certainly spoken to by all three schools. Gary Patterson, obviously one of those names. But certainly I think Arkansas is in a much better position than Tennessee. Listen, Tennessee is not your granddaddy's Tennessee. This job has been completely depleted since Phil Fulmer left a few years ago. Lane Kiffin did not do them any favors, and Derek Dooley has been an absolute disaster in that conference. Plus, you see the rise of teams like South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, and you're going to have a much tougher time winning at Tennessee than maybe you would say maybe at Arkansas. Arkansas's proven they can beat LSU. Can't beat Alabama, but they're a far more attractive team from a coaching perspective, from a financial perspective, maybe even from a recruiting perspective. And then you look at Auburn. Auburn has gone through the ringer when it comes to public relations nightmares over the last couple of years. The Cam Newton scandal came out. The casino scandal came out. Now you're looking at possible recruiting violations for coaches that were currently on staff. That's not a job that a whole lot of people want to take on, which is why, in my opinion, Bobby Petrino may not make a whole lot of sense at Auburn, because they have had such a public backlash over the last few years about integrity, about the way things have been going down at that program. If you hire Bobby Petrino, who has had nothing but integrity issues, Auburn may lose some fans. They may lose a little bit of that financial aid that they've had from certain donors. And just from a public perception, do you really want to send your kid to that school? So it's going to overlap a little bit, Weldon, but it's not going to overlap a whole lot.
Now, Drew, earlier you mentioned the whole Les Miles situation being a possible smokescreen, and I tend to agree with you on that. But I've made the point earlier, if you're going to put things out there like Les Miles as a possibility, a big name, if you're going to reportedly tell the players that you will land a big-time coach, then I think you have to deliver. And I like James Franklin and Steve Sarkisian and those guys, but you can't put up a smokescreen like that and hire a James Franklin. You have to land a big fish. So, Drew, if that's the case, then what possible big name out there is a dark horse candidate for this Arkansas job?
Yeah, man, and that's such a tough one, because, I think I was covering the coaching search for the Arkansas Razorback Sports Network a few years ago, right before they went to the ISP, when Bobby Petrino was hired, and I can tell you that nobody had any idea that Petrino had even been spoken to. I mean, so I think it's hard to say that there is a dark horse candidate. If there was a dark horse, maybe Mike Gundy. I don't think those conversations are completely over yet. I think there could still be something there. You look at the Big 12, I think that there are a couple of coaches that might want to come over to the SEC. I think Mike Gundy would probably be the biggest dark horse as far as names that you haven't heard yet. But my estimation, I would be shocked. I'll just put it to you like this, and like I said, I don't want to claim to have any inside knowledge as to what Jeff Long is thinking. I think it would surprise me if Chris Peterson isn't the guy, just because of the way Arkansas is recruited, just because you've got to get that big-name coach. You've seen a guy who's got longevity. He's done pretty much all he can do at Boise State, and I've seen the people who have said, well, the last time we hired a coach at Boise State, look at how that happened. But this is a different scenario. It would shock me if it wasn't him. But then again, Weldon, nobody saw Bobby Petrino leaving the Atlanta Falcons in the middle of the season. Nobody saw that coming. If you want to create a public relations nightmare for yourself, you could possibly go after Jim Tressel. He would certainly listen, but that's not something that I think the university wants to do. I think Mike Gundy, but probably Chris Peterson.
Oh, Lordy. Looking at hogville.net, my favorite place to go during a coaching search, and I don't pay attention. I'm just being honest, folks. I don't pay attention to anything any of you say on Hogville as far as a source or the truth, but there's a guy named Mike Irwin who comments on there, and 38 years in the biz. I think I'll listen to him. He talked yesterday about the Razorback Foundation Board teleconference that they were supposed to have had. It came out last night at about 1:30 yesterday that the Razorback Foundation teleconference was canceled, so that didn't happen apparently. And the new coach contract discussions were on hold. Take that for what it's worth, whether that means the contract discussions with whatever coach were stalled, they didn't agree on a number, they couldn't, he changed his mind, whatever it was, or Drew, and you can speak to this, I don't know the way these conversations normally go. Is this one of those things where Jeff Long, which I would have hoped he would have done this months ago, went to them and said, all right, how much can I offer? Or is this one of those things where they're trying to hammer out the final details of a coach and the coach's contract, and it just didn't work out?
Well, option number 3, and I think this is the one that's most likely, is you guys have got to not talk about any of this to anybody. We're canceling the teleconference. It's probably more likely. I think this is probably another case of the university trying to get more behind closed doors, trying to hammer out all the details. Look, the Board of Trustees are notorious for leaking information. I mean, case in point, 2007 Arkansas coaching search. Board of Trustees lets it leak that Tommy Tuberville was going to be the guy. K&W Brave breaks into their regular programming, reports that Hogville absolutely explodes, and it just turns out that he was a name that they were considering. So I think that this is another case of Jeff Long trying to be tight-lipped, trying to keep everything in the family, trying to keep things, in-house. But I also think that means that the Razorback Foundation is working on a number. And if you believe the rumors, and Jerry Jones has got a little bit something to do with this. I mean, there's been more than one source that has said that Jerry Jones is kicking in a little bit of money. And listen, I'm not a Dallas Cowboy fan by any stretch of the imagination, but even if I were, that would make me nervous. Jason Garrett, Champ Gailey, Dave Campo, I want him off of our coaching search.
I completely agree. He needs to be worried about getting himself a real coach.
Yeah.
Don't kick any money for John Gruden to go to Arkansas. Kick in some money for John Gruden to go to Dallas, Jerry. I mean, let's make that perfectly clear. But no, I think that, Mark, this is really much more of a case of Arkansas trying to be more tight-lipped, trying to make sure that they've got all of their ducks in a row, because I anticipate a press conference within the next 7 to 10 days to go ahead and just move this thing forward. There are too many rumors flying right now.
Man, Drew, good stuff. Thank you for coming on today. We'll definitely have you on again to talk about this, and we're thinking about doing. Now, this is preliminary. We're thinking about doing a special the night that the coach is announced. We may have to have you on to talk a little bit about it and just kind of go through it all with us. It's going to be an exciting time.
I appreciate that. Hey, one quick note I will mention as far as these great coaching rumors. I do have a buddy of mine, former sports director at 4029, Mark Laricos, who's now on the East Coast, tells me today that Bobby Petrino is a dark horse candidate at NC State. Take that for what it's worth. It'll be interesting to see.
Well, Bobby Petrino's going somewhere. We know that. And I'd rather it be Tennessee or NC State so that Arkansas doesn't have to play them every year.
Agreed.
All right, Drew. Thank you for coming on with us today.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. Drew Brent working the phones for us, doing a good job of helping us keep abreast of the information that's all out there right now. Got some sources and people that we don't necessarily know. Weldon, one thing we do know is that we don't know anything.
That's right.
That's painfully clear right now that we don't know as much as we'd like to know. And Jeff Long, the conversation that I had yesterday, the Les Miles situation, to me, it seemed like, and another media member, I'll go ahead and give him credit since it's his idea, Derek Ruskin. He said yesterday on Twitter that this seems like Jeff Long was trying to smoke out a rat.
Yeah.
Where he said, all right, I'm going to tell certain people or certain person that I think is ratting to the media that Les Miles is our guy, and this is what we're going to give, just so I can know who I can trust and who I don't. That seems to be a sort of elaborate plan, an elaborate thought, and he would have to have pretty solid information that this guy or that person is the one who is leaking information for him to do that. But it's very, very shady to me just to talk about making Les Miles the highest paid coach in college football.
Yeah, see, and I was of that thinking as well, and I saw you retweeted that, and I said, okay, that makes some sense. But then it blew up, and that's when people from South Louisiana, I heard conflicting reports, nothing to it, a little bit, but not much to it.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, what's going on? There's questions that we just don't have answers to.
There's something to it. We don't know if it was, obviously it was an offer made, whether it was just a, hey, what do you think about 5 years, $27.5 million, or whatever it was. We'll see. It remains to be seen right now exactly what Jeff Long was going after there. I still think if I'm going to shoot for the stars, I'm shooting for Chris Peterson. And, if I were to believe one of these guys that I didn't believe early on, Chris Peterson is the guy. I sat here on this show more than once and said Chris Peterson is not coming to Arkansas because, he turns down UCLA last year. He's turned down chances. He's been linked to every coaching job in the country over the last 10 years, or over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Well, it's whether it's Notre Dame or Florida or UCLA, everywhere he's been linked to these jobs, and it's hard for me to believe. But if they're going to triple his salary almost, it'd be hard for him to not at least listen.
Yeah, I think he'll listen. He had the issue with his child being sick, and apparently that's resolved. So people think his circumstances have now changed, and he'd be more willing to leave. But who knows?
We don't know. We really don't. So those of you that are listening right now, please don't take this and run with this as the truth. We're just giving you our opinion. We're giving you a little bit of a look into and through some of the stuff that's being reported. We've got plenty left on the Sports Blitz, but we don't have a whole lot of time to do it. We're going to go to break. Stay with us.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
It doesn't matter what you're looking for, chances are Good Deal Charlie Discount Furniture has it. From living room, bedroom, and dining furniture to one-of-a-kind pieces, Good Deal Charlie has everything. The staff is pleasant and always friendly, so you'll feel no pressure to buy. With new and used furniture for your home or office, you can find everything you need at the best possible prices at 2209 East Main Street in Russellville. Good Deal Charlie.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com. RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
Sports Scene of Arkansas offers a wide variety of sporting goods and apparel to meet any athlete's needs. Coaches love the top-of-the-line equipment that gives their players an edge, and parents and fans can't get enough of the high-quality screen printing that allows them to sport their favorite team's logo on jerseys, bags, and hats. Your one-stop shop for embroidery, banners, and much, much more. Visit your local team sports specialists. Sports Scene at 316 West Main in Russellville.
AR Sports present the 2012 River Valley Football Magazine, featuring profiles of local high school football teams, as well as college football previews and player spotlights. Professional photography accompanies top-notch writing throughout to bring you the best locally focused publication in Arkansas. You'll enjoy special tributes to local legends Jerry Aiken and Don Sevier, as well as an exclusive interview with Razorback all-time great Clint Sterner in this year's magazine. Available at fine establishments throughout the River Valley. Pick up your copy of River Valley Football Magazine today.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Live from the River Valley Leader Studio, here are your hosts, Mark Freeman and Weldon Braxton.
All right, we've got to tie a bow on this coaching carousel stuff. I forgot to get to a comment the other day. You'll have to forgive us for if we miss your comment on Monday, Wednesday, or Friday. We post these comments to Facebook.com, our poll questions and things like that, Facebook.com/SportsBlitz and Facebook.com/RVL News. And then we share them on each one of our walls. So you can comment in any one of those different places. And sometimes we miss one. In this case, we missed 4 of them from the same person who just kept trying because I was not answering their question. So I'm sorry I missed your question the other day from Beverly Carr. She said, "I'm glad the meeting is over. Now they need to fire the defensive line coach." And then we talked about coaching hires. She said Mike Gundy in all caps. Go get the OSU coach now. That's who she wants to see is Mike Gundy. There are a lot of people who have an opinion on the coaching search, and Mike Gundy, I've heard from a couple different people. Drew just said a minute ago that his name might not necessarily be dead at this point. We've asked the Honda of Russellville poll question today, though. It said, although we do not believe that Arkansas will hire Les Miles, would you rather have him or a lesser accomplished coach like James Franklin or Steve Sarkisian? Bobby Church said, of those 3, I prefer James Franklin. And we've got some other answers from other people. Real quickly, I'll get to Bradley Martin says, out of the 3, James Franklin. However, Franklin is not at the top of my list at all. And Grant Merrill said, given who we are competing against for recruits, we need a coach who can do more with less talent. Peterson has proven he can do that at Boise. Brad Caldwell said he agrees with Grant about Peterson. Miles is holding back LSU, but he wins 10 to 11 games per year and plays for the occasional national championship, so there's no reason to fire him. They would not be sad to see him go either. Arkansas would do better with Franklin because of his recruiting than they would with Miles, in my opinion, but I also think that Franklin would do better at LSU than Miles, and that sounds funny. So we've got several people who have chimed in with their opinion. We don't know who the new coach is going to be. We don't even know when it's going to be announced. We assume that it's going to be within the next 7 to 10 days, Weldon. As fun as this has been, it's also kind of going to be fun to see it end.
Yeah. I mean, it sort of has that adrenaline rush. You love it for a while, but at some point, things need to settle in. And, of course, Arkansas, not the only school going through coaching searches. It's that time of year. Of course, we know Auburn, Tennessee, and the SEC have openings. Kentucky filled theirs with Florida State defensive coordinator Mark Stoops. Ellis Johnson fired at Southern Miss. In his first year, Southern Miss under Larry Fedora went 12-2, won the conference title, went 0-12. So they let him go. NC State job is open. Tom O'Brien was let go. A few names mentioned there. Who'd you mention was linked? Bobby Petrino?
Bobby Petrino was linked to Auburn. He was also linked to NC State.
NC State, yeah. I think that NC State's a good job. I think you got some athletes there. You go back to when they had Mario Williams and Reggie Herring was coaching them. They got some athletes over there. I'd like to see a guy like Chad Morris, the offensive coordinator at Clemson, take a look at maybe that NC State job or even Southern Miss. Southern Miss is going to make a run at Gus Malzahn. I don't think they're going to get it done, but they're going to try. So Colorado, a place where I think Bobby Petrino would really fit, and if I had to pick, I would say he would end up there. also talking to former Kansas Jayhawk coach Mark Mangino. So a lot of things going on in the coaching world.
And that's why we were talking earlier about how important it is to get your coach nailed down now, because once these wheels start turning, you may end up with somebody you didn't want because the guy you wanted went somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because you don't know yet. Will Mac Brown stay at Texas? Will he have enough? Will they have enough of him and say bye? Because that's probably the most attractive coaching job in college football. Then you're going to lose a guy to that, and then say, it's a good coach. Say Les Miles at LSU leaves LSU to go to Texas. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but if he does, then LSU's open. That's an attractive job. There goes a guy to LSU. You end up 4 or 5 guys down the list, and people are going on to more attractive jobs, and you're left holding the bag. So we'll see if Arkansas jumps out. I really expect Jeff Long to get this done as quickly as he possibly can, because he doesn't want the coaching carousel to have him left out hanging.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, the domino effect will start. Jobs will open up. And, again, you don't want to be left holding the bag. I mean, I think you start to question Jeff Long a little bit. Drew mentioned it. We had him on the phone. Bobby Petrino falls in your lap. Come on, Jeff. We got some faith in you, but you need to pull this one out.
Yeah, we've definitely got he's earned a lot of goodwill. He's earned a lot of equity, so we'll have to give him his due there. Know that Jeff Long's done a pretty good job. If he hires a crappy coach, it all goes out the window. It's kind of a shame. You've got Arkansas at 8th on the Forbes list, the most valuable programs. You've got people answering the call. Got facilities going up. Hired Mike Anderson. You've done all kind of facility upgrades and just all kinds of upgrades campus-wide as far as athletics go. It'd be a shame if you crapped it away with one bad decision, and that's what he would do if he hired a bad coach in football.
Because I know some people have already said they will not be answering the call any longer.
That's true. I mean, and that's going to happen. You're going to have that happen, I think, regardless. You're going to have some people who say, I don't want anything to do with this guy. I wanted this guy.
Yeah.
And I just hope that there aren't any Grudenites out there who have a lot of money. No. Because if John Gruden's not coming, and if he doesn't come and he causes Arkansas to lose money, that'd be a crying shame.
I hope people understand by now. I just hope so.
I would hope so. I mean, there are too many idiots out there, though, that report it. And if you think John Gruden's coming, I'm sorry, I called you an idiot. But there are too many people out there who should know better. And I talked about this early on. It's irresponsible for people to spout some of the stuff that they spout, especially people in the media that just pass along rumors and get people going like they do. We can honestly say here on the Sports Blitz, and Drew said it earlier, nobody in the state knows anything. You got guys like Mike Irwin who will call and make, they have contacts with people who will tell them certain situational things like there's a meeting or such and such has been contacted. But we don't know who Jeff Long's going to hire, because until the ink dries, none of us will have any idea, because he won't let us.
Absolutely. I mean, it's one thing to bring out opinions and lay out scenarios. It's a whole nother deal to report something that's fact, and that's where you get into that irresponsibility thing. And I'm proud to say here on the Sports Blitz, we've stayed away from that.
We've tried our best. We're going to continue to do what we can to keep you up to date on the information that we get and try to sift through the junk that comes our way. There's plenty of it, I promise you. There are different names every day that we have to sift through. All right, let's hit a couple things real quickly on the wire. Weldon, what's the most important information? I see that on Twitter, big news for Arkansas baseball. Blake Baxendale, Tommy John surgery, going to be out for the entire 2013 season. He was probably the top recruit that the Razorback baseball team had. That's a huge blow.
Yeah, that is a huge blow, yeah. Of course, played at Springdale Harbor. DJ's brother expected him to come in and play, and he's hurt, so
that's tough.
Tough break, yeah.
That is tough. All right, what else is going on the wire?
A lot going on, Mark. Of course, college basketball starting to heat up a little bit. You got some nice pre-conference matchups, Big Ten, ACC challenges, of course. Of all the conference challenges, this is the big one. North Carolina went up to Indiana last night, and they got taken apart. I mean, you get Indiana in Assembly Hall when they're draining threes, there's not much you can do about it. And tonight you got another huge one, Ohio State taking on Duke. I got to give Coach K some credit. They went down there, won that tournament in the Bahamas, of course, beat Kentucky earlier this year. I want to see what this Duke team can do against Thad Matta's Buckeyes.
Yeah, Duke, I'll have to give it to Coach K. I like Coach K. I don't like Duke. I just don't. It's always been since 1994 when Arkansas played him in the national championship game. They've been the enemy. But he does a nice job, and he recruits obviously top-notch players. He has them fit into the system for the most part. You do have the occasional Austin Rivers, but you've got him in the system, and he gets the most out of them, and I like what he's doing there. I do like both of our national championship picks. You had Indiana. They did well, although Louisville is going to be without their big man for up to 6 weeks. Broken wrist, I think is what it is. I still like the way they play and the talent that they've got. I think that we've got some good picks going in our college basketball early season picks.
Yeah, certainly our picks look good. We'll see how the brackets unfold. Well, I do want to, as we close out here, get to our power rankings a little bit in the NFL. Of course, a lot going on. Green Bay Packers, can they get it together? Are the Giants back? Will Big Ben be back for their huge divisional matchup with the Baltimore Ravens? I even like the Seattle Seahawks going to Chicago. Seattle trying to stay in that playoff race, had a tough loss at Miami. And then huge NFC East battle between the Washington Redskins and the Giants. Mark, our power rankings, you want to read them or me? Or
I'll go ahead and we'll count them down from 5. Again, every week our power rankings are not necessarily who we would think would win.
Right.
If they played one another, it's just kind of a what have you done for me lately and who we think is hot. We've got a couple teams left off of it. Before we even get there, we let you know we have the Giants and the Ravens off the top 5. I know that they've rolled through. Giants just put a beat down on a team that was in my list last week in Green Bay. But we don't have them on the list. At number 5, we've got the Broncos. 4, we've got the Patriots. 3, we've got the Falcons. 2, the 49ers. And 1, the Houston Texans. Those 5 teams, obviously, we could move those teams around.
Yeah.
If we had to play one of those, if those teams had to play each other, different matchups would dictate who we think would win. The Broncos, without Willis McGahee, we both know aren't as dangerous down the stretch in the playoffs, but we like what they've done so far in the last couple weeks. So that's where we've got the power rankings. Weldon, what really sticks out to you about how we've changed the power rankings and where your teams are?
I think it's the Denver Broncos. I know you had them out of your rankings. You wanted to see how that running game would look without McGahee. I still had them at 3rd, and I think the jury is still out because as bad as Kansas City has been offensively, they've been pretty good defensively. They've put up some pretty good defensive efforts. It's a road game at Arrowhead. Remember, the Baltimore Ravens didn't even score a touchdown when they went to Arrowhead. So it's hard for me to say that running game is devastated because only putting up 17 points on the road against a division rival. But there's no question they do miss Willis McGahee. No Sean Moreno, kind of a hidden gem there. You thought Hillman, maybe Ball would get those carries. I forgot they even had a first-round pick and no Sean Moreno sitting over there. I don't even think he's been active a lot. So I think the team to watch is the Denver Broncos. Obviously the 49ers with their whole quarterback situation. Will Alex Smith have to come in from the bullpen in a critical situation if they need it, or will Colin Kaepernick take them to the next level? Because if Colin Kaepernick does play like a veteran, doesn't make young mistakes, 49ers are the best team in football. You look at the weak link they had at the quarterback position. If that becomes a strength, that is a nasty team to face.
One prevailing theme that goes through our top 5, the only team that doesn't necessarily fit this bill right now is Atlanta, and they're 10-1. Each one of these teams is on a pretty significant winning streak. Denver's won 6 games in a row, Houston 5 in a row, New England 5 in a row. The Falcons have only won 2 in a row, but that's because their one loss came 3 games ago. They're 10-1 right now. And then looking at the San Francisco 49ers, they've won 2 in a row also. So there's 3 of those teams that are on significant winning streaks, and they've made their way to the top of their standings in their respective divisions, and they've kind of separated themselves from the other teams in their division. Looking at New England, they're 3 games clear of Miami in the AFC East. Baltimore 9-2. They're just on the cusp of our power rankings. Indianapolis is 3 games out behind Houston, and so I guess it's the San Diego Chargers 4 games out of behind Denver.
Yeah.
So we may see some of these teams kind of shut it down in the next couple of weeks, which is going to be terrible for our fantasy teams, but it does look good for them as far as playoff seeding.
Yeah, that is. It's that time in fantasy football. Playoffs are starting either this week or the week after that. And when guys are benching guys and resting up for the playoffs is hard on your fantasy team. But, these teams are rock solid. I mean, I look at the Houston Texans. I am a little concerned about them defensively, what they've done the last couple of weeks, although they'll get a few guys back. Some guys are out for the year, Brian Cushing, but I think they'll get a little bit healthier, get back on track. But it's going to be a fun finish. Can Gronk get back for New England, and will they be formidable? This Denver Bronco defense slowly gets better. Jack Del Rio, John Fox, a defensive-minded head coach. You put a defense with Peyton Manning, I mean, it's really unfair. It is.
Yeah. Well, we have wasted all the time we can of your day. Thank you for joining us on a hump day. We hope you will come back and be with us on Friday. If something happens in the Arkansas coaching search between now and then, we will try our best to be here to let you know what's going on. We'll sift through all the stuff together on Friday. Be sure to come back 11 o'clock. And now that you can call us, you just give us a call anytime, 968-NEWS, and let us know what's on your mind as far as the coaching search goes. We'll be back on Friday at 11 o'clock for Weldon. I'm Mark. So long.